Just months ago, as the royal calendar moved from the quiet winter of 2025 into the crisp spring of 2026, the world witnessed a profound visual shift. The Princess of Wales stepped into the light wearing the Oriental Circlet, a ruby and diamond masterpiece that had been strictly locked away for 2 decades. It was a breathtaking moment, but it also reignited a question that has fascinated royal watchers for years. Why are so many of these magnificent treasures only coming into the light now? For 70 years, Queen Elizabeth II maintained a tight, almost impenetrable grip on the royal jewellery collection. We watched her wear her signature pearls and her familiar, reliable tiaras, while hundreds of the most spectacular diamonds, rubies, and sapphires in human history sat in the dark, completely hidden from public view. We often imagine that being a queen or a princess is a matter of pure fantasy. We picture the royal vault as a limitless, glittering playground, a magical walk-in closet where a royal lady simply points a gloved finger at a velvet box and a tiara gracefully appears. We assume that having access to the greatest jewellery collection on earth means waking up every day and deciding which priceless masterpiece to wear. But the truth behind those heavy steel doors is far more grounded, far more complex, and perhaps far more demanding. The royal vault is not a boutique, and these items are not merely decorative accessories designed to make a woman look beautiful. Royal jewellery has weight, it has temperature, and it has sharp edges of antique platinum and heavy gold that press into the skin. These are physical objects that must be managed by a living, breathing woman who has to stand for hours, smile through exhaustion, and turn her head with effortless grace while carrying the weight of history on her shoulders. For decades, it was a popular narrative to assume that Queen Elizabeth II was simply conservative, or perhaps even a little guarded, keeping the most dazzling pieces locked away in a forbidden corner of the vault. But as the doors slowly swing open in this new era, a much deeper truth is emerging. The late Queen was not hiding these treasures out of selfishness. She was protecting her family from the crushing weight of the jewels themselves. Queen Elizabeth II understood something that the public rarely considers. A royal jewel is not a fashion statement, it is a uniform. It is a piece of armor. When a woman places a state diadem on her head or fastens a heavy historical collar around her neck, she is instantly stripped of her personal identity. She ceases to be a mother, a wife, or an individual. She becomes a living, breathing symbol of the nation. She becomes the state. By keeping the most historic, the most valuable, and the most heavily symbolic pieces firmly in the dark, she was acting as a shield. Inside the vault, there are pieces that Queen Elizabeth II regarded not as jewellery, but as her professional equipment. We must begin with the piece that acts as the very face of the monarchy, the George IV state diadem. You likely know it intimately, because for decades it graced British and Commonwealth postage stamps, coins, and banknotes. It is arguably the most recognisable piece of jewellery in the royal collection, yet its origins are surprisingly masculine. It was created in 1820, not for a queen, but for a king. Known for his flamboyant style, King George IV commissioned this masterpiece for his coronation, wearing it over a large velvet hat adorned with an ostrich feather. It is fascinating to consider that this delicate, feminine-looking circlet, set with 1,333 diamonds and featuring a 4-carat pale yellow brilliant diamond at its centre, began its life as a vanity project for an extravagant male ruler. Queen Elizabeth II treated this diadem with a reverence that bordered on the bureaucratic. She wore it for the first time at the state opening of Parliament in November 1952, and it became her absolute working uniform. Despite its beauty and comfort, she never wore the diamond diadem to a banquet or a gala. She understood that a crown, even one this elegant, is not evening wear. It is a badge of office. Lending it to a sister or a daughter was impossible, because lending it would mean handing over the weight of the head of state. Now, the diadem has passed to Queen Camilla, who wore it for the state opening of Parliament in 2023, confirming its status as a jewel reserved exclusively for the woman beside the throne, or on it. This strict separation of personal identity and state duty continues with the coronation necklace and earrings, a set that represents the absolute continuity of the bloodline. The existence of this set is actually the result of a bitter family feud. When Queen Victoria ascended the throne in 1837, Her uncle became the King of Hanover and immediately laid claim to the family jewels. After a legal battle that raged for decades, Victoria lost. She was forced to pack up magnificent diamonds and pearls and ship them away to Germany. But Victoria did not mourn the loss for long. She turned to Garrard and commissioned replacements, dismantling obsolete ceremonial swords and useless weaponry lying about the royal collection to create a necklace that would define the monarchy for the next century. Completed in 1858, the true focal point of the necklace is the Lahore diamond, a 22-carat stone carrying a weight of tradition that few other pieces can match. It has been worn at every coronation since its creation, while previous queens layered it with endless strands of pearls and diamond collars until they were encased from neck to waist. Elizabeth II took a different approach. At her coronation, she stripped away the Edwardian clutter, allowing the substantial collet diamonds and the Lahore pendant to stand alone. She viewed it not just as decoration, but as a singular, potent symbol of her anointing. To wear the coronation necklace is to wear the heavy, inescapable history of the crowning ceremony itself. It was never lent, because you cannot lend the burden of the throne. Yet, the vault also holds pieces that became forbidden not because of strict constitutional rules, but because they are the quiet remnants of a specific woman's grief. To understand this, we must look at a piece that vanished from public view for the entirety of Queen Elizabeth II's reign. After the death of Prince Albert, Queen Victoria remained in deep mourning for the rest of her life. She found the heavy imperial state crown impossible to wear over her mandatory widow's cap, a specific arrangement of white tulle and veil that she never abandoned. So, in 1870, she commissioned a highly practical solution. Significantly, she supplied the diamonds from her own personal necklace, making this tiny crown her private property rather than a state heirloom. The result was a delicate, open-work masterpiece made of silver and set with 1,187 diamonds. It was an ergonomic triumph, weighing a mere 160 grams, designed specifically to perch securely atop that white widow's veil. This miniature crown became Victoria's absolute signature. She wore it for her official golden and diamond jubilee portraits, and it was so deeply personal to her that, upon her death in 1901, it was placed directly on her coffin at Osborne House. Queen Victoria bequeathed the piece to the crown to be worn by future queens, and while Queen Alexandra managed to wear it by anchoring it in voluminous Edwardian hairstyles, it eventually fell out of favour. In 1937, King George VI decided to deposit it in the Jewel House at the Tower of London. There is a simple reason why Elizabeth II never retrieved it. By 1952, both widow's caps and towering Edwardian hairdos had completely vanished. Without that specific volume of fabric or hair to support it, this miniature crown presents a difficult aesthetic challenge. Perched on a modern head, it risks looking less like a symbol of an empire and more like a toy or a paper crown from a Christmas cracker. Elizabeth II, with her sharp eye for dignity, understood that this was a relic of a specific woman's sorrow, not a working tool for a modern sovereign. She left it to sleep peacefully, refusing to let the present make a mockery of the past. This brings us to the quiet tragedy of changing silhouettes, where spectacular creations became victims of time and shifting fashion. As the 20th century progressed, necklines dropped and jewellery became lighter. Consequently, some of the most complex jewels in the collection spent Elizabeth II's entire reign in the dark. Queen Mary and Queen Alexandra had defined the Edwardian look with wide diamond collars that encased the neck like armour. One such piece is Queen Mary's Love Trophy collar, commissioned around 1901. This is a gold-set marvel of rectangular panels featuring torches, quivers and bows, the traditional trophies of Cupid. For decades, this piece was a myth to us. We knew it survived because it was photographed for reference books, but it was never worn. It was not until April 2025 that the necklace was finally brought out of the vault for an exhibition at the King's Gallery. Seeing it under museum lights confirmed that it is a heavy, intricate masterpiece, perhaps too rigid for modern wear, but undeniable in its craftsmanship. The same fate befell Queen Alexandra's collier Resil. This was a commission from Cartier in 1904, and it is a technical wonder. Resurrected translates to fishnet, and the diamonds are set in a flexible lattice that hugs the neck like luxurious fabric. Queen Mary wore it often, modifying it to be an all-diamond honeycomb. But unlike the love trophy, the Resurrected has not been exhibited or seen in decades. It remains a ghost. To wear it today would require a specific attitude and a stiff, corseted posture that modern royalty has entirely abandoned. Some jewels are locked away not because they are unloved, but because the world they were built for has simply ceased to exist. Another magnificent item that fell victim to changing silhouettes is the diamond stomacher. A stomacher is a massive, rigid ornament designed to be pinned to the stiff bodice of a corseted gown. They are notoriously difficult to wear today. Elizabeth II actually owned a magnificent one, a wedding gift from Queen Mary, but she found it so impractical that she wore it in its complete form only once, for her Golden Jubilee dinner in 2002. So, it was a genuine surprise when, in December 2023, Queen Camilla appeared at a diplomatic reception, wearing a completely different stomacher. This was a Belle Epoque jewel with diamond tassels, almost certainly part of the Greville bequest left to the Queen Mother in 1942. Think about that timeline. The Queen Mother received it, likely never wore it, and left it in a box. Elizabeth II inherited it, and left it in the box. It sat in the dark for 80 years, simply waiting for the right moment to re-emerge. But not every story in the vault has a happy ending. Sometimes, the disappearance of a treasure is not due to fashion, but to the fragility of the materials themselves. We must discuss a piece that may have been lost forever. The Queen Mother's pearl sautoir. This was a spectacular, long necklace composed of 5 rows of pearls mounted on platinum wire, a wedding gift from the City of London in 1923. The new Duchess of York wore it for her early portraits in 1924, and then, silence. It has not been seen in a century. Why would such a significant gift disappear? It comes down to its specific construction. Pearls are soft, organic gems. To stay lustrous and healthy, they need moisture and gentle handling. Platinum wire, conversely, is incredibly hard and unyielding. It is quite possible that after 100 years of storage, the necklace's condition has simply deteriorated due to the abrasion between these two materials. It is a sobering thought that in the royal vault, even the most beautiful treasures are not always eternal. They fight a quiet battle against the elements in the dark, and sometimes they simply fade away. But while some pieces quietly faded away in the dark, others operated in a stratosphere of their own. These are the jewels that are not merely reserved, but are guarded by their sheer, staggering worth and their unassailable status. We must speak of a piece that carries perhaps the most amusing nickname in royal history, Granny's chips. These 2 massive diamonds were cut by the Asher brothers in Amsterdam. They were purchased by the South African government and presented to Queen Mary as a gift in 1910. The nickname is a bit of dry royal humour, as the Askers referred to these secondary stones as the chippings, the leftovers from the main cut. But these leftovers are monstrous. Cullinan III is a pear-shaped diamond weighing 94.4 carats, and Cullinan IV is a square-cut diamond of 63.6 carats. Together, they form a single brooch that weighs over 150 carats. Queen Mary, with her typical disregard for minimalism, wore them everywhere. But when Elizabeth II inherited them in 1953, she treated them with far more caution. The reason these diamonds remained forbidden to everyone else for 70 years is simple. Cullinan I and II are the centerpieces of the sovereign's scepter and the imperial state crown. Because Granny's chips are the direct siblings of the stones in the formal regalia, they carry an undeniable aura of state authority. Elizabeth II treated these diamonds as the ultimate queen-only badge. Lending them would be like lending a physical fragment of the crown itself. They remained the ultimate weapon in her jewelry arsenal, reserved for the woman who sat on the throne, and her alone. Then there is the grandest survivor in the collection, a piece that arrived in the vault through sheer desperation and daring. The Vladimir Tiara has a history that reads like a thriller. It originally belonged to Grand Duchess Maria Pavlovna of Russia, a leading society hostess of the Romanov court. When the Russian Revolution broke out, The Grand Duchess fled, but her jewels were left behind in a hidden safe in her bedroom at the Vladimir Palace. In the summer of 1917, a British art dealer named Bertie Stopford embarked on a secret mission. Disguised as a workman, he sneaked into the palace, retrieved the jewels, and smuggled them out of Russia in a pair of battered Gladstone bags. The tiara, damaged during its perilous journey, was eventually sold to Queen Mary, who had it repaired by Garrard. The true genius of the Vladimir Tiara lies in its versatility. It consists of interlocking diamond circles that can hold different pendants, including the original pearls or the magnificent Cambridge emeralds. Elizabeth II inherited the Vladimir and wore it throughout her entire reign. It was a heavy, majestic piece, and she managed the complex mechanics of it with the help of her dresser, Angela Kelly. Swapping the drops was a high-stakes operation that took about 1 hour, and Kelly noted that she never wore gloves during the process, needing a firm grip to ensure the precious stones did not slip while being hooked into the diamond frame. Like the Cullinan diamonds, the Vladimir was never seen on anyone else during Elizabeth's lifetime. It was a queen-level diadem, reserved exclusively for the woman at the very top of the hierarchy. While those pieces were restricted by their staggering status, the next group of jewels was guarded by something far more powerful, the sheer force of personality. These are the tiaras that, while technically available to be lent, became so fused with the image of Elizabeth II that seeing them on anyone else felt, for decades, simply impossible. They were her signature pieces, forming a de facto closed collection. We must start with the tiara, that is, quite literally, the face of the late Queen, the girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. If you have ever held a British £5 note or glanced at a coin minted after 1953, you have seen this tiara. It began as a sentimental wedding gift to the future Queen Mary in 1893, funded by a committee of young women. When Elizabeth married Prince Philip in 1947, Queen Mary passed it down as a wedding present. Elizabeth affectionately called it Granny's Tiara. What makes this piece unique in the forbidden list is the duration of its tenure. Elizabeth II wore it for over 70 years. She wore it so frequently that it ceased to be just a piece of jewellery and became a seamless extension of her silhouette. For over 7 decades, no other woman in the royal family touched it. It was not until October 2023, more than a year after the late Queen's passing, that Queen Camilla debuted the tiara at a dinner at Mansion House. It was a highly significant moment, marking the end of the mourning period for the jewellery collection. Yet, for many, seeing Granny's tiara on a new wearer was a moment of profound visual adjustment. It is a jewel so inextricably linked to one monarch that seeing it on another queen is perhaps the most visible sign that one era has ended and another has truly begun. If Granny's tiara was a heavy legacy, the Burmese ruby tiara was a strictly personal creation. It holds a special distinction. It is one of the few major tiaras that Elizabeth II commissioned herself, rather than inheriting. By 1973, the Queen decided she needed a new ruby tiara. To make it, she made a ruthless decision that might shock jewellery purists today. She dismantled the magnificent Cartier Nizam of Hyderabad tiara, a floral piece given to her as a wedding present, to harvest its diamonds. She combined these stones with a collection of rubies she had received as a wedding gift from the people of Burma. The design she chose was deeply symbolic. According to traditional Burmese beliefs, rubies possess the power to protect the wearer from illness and evil. This tiara became a staple of her wardrobe, yet she never lent it to anyone. It remained exclusively hers. While she was happy to share the grand family heirlooms, the jewels she built for herself were part of a private, modern uniform that she was not ready to pass on. It served as her personal talisman, a protective shield against the immense pressures of her reign. Finally, we turn to the pieces that exist in a fascinating grey area. These are jewels with no strict constitutional rules, which became forbidden through the sheer force of a single monarch's preference. The most compelling example of this is Queen Victoria's Golden Jubilee necklace. For Victoria's Golden Jubilee in 1887, a group of aristocratic women raised funds for a tribute, and a portion of the massive surplus was used to commission this magnificent diamond and pearl necklace. Victoria designated it an heirloom of the crown. This specific wording is primarily about ownership, securing the piece for the institution of the monarchy, but leaving its use more to the discretion of the reigning monarch. For half a century, it was treated with remarkably little reverence. Queen Mary, with her pragmatic eye, saw it not as a sacred whole, but as a source of useful parts, even pinning the smaller trefoil links to her hats. It was Elizabeth II who resurrected it. She wore the necklace in its complete, original form and elevated it to one of the most important pieces in her collection. Through constant, high-profile wear, she transformed it from a forgotten, dismantled heirloom into a heavy emblem of her reign. She created a new, unwritten rule. This necklace is part of the monarch's personal uniform. Thus, it landed on the forbidden list, not by Victoria's decree, but by Elizabeth's deliberate choice. This brings us to the ultimate symbol of the vault's carefully guarded boundaries, the Oriental Circlet. This delicate, architectural tiara, featuring lotus flowers and arches, was designed by Prince Albert in 1853 as a testament to his love for Queen Victoria. Her will was explicit, designating it an heirloom of the crown, intended to be worn by future queens. By that strict logic, it should have passed directly to Elizabeth II in 1952. But here, family affection overruled rigid protocol. The Queen Mother absolutely adored this tiara. Realizing how much her mother loved it, Elizabeth II decided not to claim it, allowing the Queen Mother to keep it until her death in 2002. Once the piece finally returned to the main vault, however, Elizabeth II applied Victoria's original instruction with characteristic, unforgiving precision. She wore it on exactly one occasion in her entire reign, for a state banquet in Malta. After that single outing, she returned it to the vault, enforcing its status as a piece solely for the monarch or consort. For over 20 years, it remained a forbidden object to everyone else in the family. It sat in the dark, patiently waiting. But with a new reign, we are seeing the final, magnificent shift in these rigid protocols. In December 2025, for the German state banquet at Windsor Castle, the Oriental Circlet finally reappeared, not on a queen, but on a future queen. The Princess of Wales, Catherine, made her debut in the piece. It was a stunning moment that signaled the strict, literal rules of the Elizabethan era are beginning to evolve. Looking back at the vast expanse of the royal collection, we realize that being the custodian of such treasures is an act of meticulous curation. Queen Elizabeth II understood the profound distinction between the jewels of a woman and the heavy regalia of a monarch. She hoarded the most historic pieces not out of selfishness, but out of preservation. She absorbed the blinding glare of the crown so that the other women in her family could breathe. She kept these masterpieces in the dark so that the next generation could be the ones to bring them into the light, unburdened by the immediate weight of the past. The illusion of ownership falls away, leaving only the profound reality of duty. The women do not choose the jewels. The jewels, heavy with history and demanding absolute surrender, finally choose them. The new era has arrived, and the vault doors are open at last.